So it's about time we sat down and had a bit of a heart-to-heart. This latest setback has given me some time to reflect on many things in my life. For those of you that aren't aware, 5 weeks ago I broke my radius on my right arm in multiple places. Underwent extensive surgery to repair it using artificial bone, titanium plates and 8 screws, and a team of surgeons basically legoed my arm back together. Well, this is not my first rodeo of broken bones. It is, however, the first time that I've sustained significant nerve damage, especially to my right hand, my sort of middle finger to my thumb. Now, the problem is, I pull triggers for a living. What also made this injury different than many of my other injuries over the years, this was the first time that I'd had 2 people solely dependent on me to provide for them. And through a very weird sort of circumstance and timing, our medical aid didn't cover a portion of my treatment. So to help us recover from this financial drain, you can use at the moment the coupon code RECOVER to save 20% off all of our shooting courses. So that's my reloading course and my precision rifle course. Now, having the right mindset going into this was the hardest part. In those initial days, I was overwhelmed with this freaking feeling of disappointment. I'd done everything right. I'd gone for coaching. I was super fit. I was riding well, and I was riding within my limit. I wasn't doing something that I couldn't. But I made a tiny mistake, and I paid quite a significant price for it. I pretty much failed. Now, I knew immediately what the short-term consequences would be here for me. Pain, not being able to hold my wife, picking up my little girl, running our business would be next to impossible. Filming YouTube videos and producing 8 YouTube videos a month seemed like a laughable challenge. Sports-wise, I knew I would be missing out on the South African NRL champs. So I was massively bummed, and pretty much that initial part of the whole experience can just be summed up with one word, which was disappointment. Now, I don't want you guys to feel sorry for me. It's by no fault of my own that I ended up in this position. But I'd kind of been in a dark place before. If we skip back a little bit, for those last couple of years at my corporate job in finance, I drove to work every day with this feeling of nausea in my stomach. I really didn't know how I was going to make it through the day, never mind through the week. I had no real friends, and many of my family relationships suffered as I completely withdrew. I was pretty much on autopilot, and despite making a really good living, I knew I wasn't making a life. I wasn't happy, I wasn't fulfilled, I had no joy, I had no peace, and I pretty much was depressed. And I knew I had to make a change. So I handed in my resignation after a 10-year career in finance. And that was one of the scariest decisions I ever made. At the time, my little girl was 5 months old. So can you imagine the risk for me and the responsibility to sort of take this job security and chase this dream? But my wife had my back. And I knew if I put in the time, I could make this work. Looking back now, it's hands down, the riskiest decision I ever made in my life. You see, that's the thing about discipline. It does get results. There's a saying I heard recently, which I really, really like, and you may have heard this before. If you hang around in a barbershop for long enough, eventually you're gonna get a haircut. Now, speaking of that, my hair is super long, and I absolutely need to get a haircut. So I learned about discipline at a very young age. After my folks got divorced, my brother and I, my older brother at the time, went to live with my mom. And I really wanted to get into martial arts. I was kind of bullied, but my mom didn't want to pay for it. So I started delivering newspapers with my older brother at 4 a.m., 6 days a week, okay? And I used that money to fund my taekwondo lessons. Now, the problem was, my mom still forced me to play team sports. So when you live in South Africa, you play rugby, okay? So I played rugby after school every day, or practiced twice a week, actually, not every day. The problem, however, with that was taekwondo classes started at 6 p.m. But I also have a younger twin baby brother and sister, so my mom had to take care of them, so she couldn't drive back and forth to taekwondo. So pretty soon, I was cycling around 10 kilometers from outside of town where we stayed on my bicycle, most days having done rugby practice, okay, and then doing the super hardcore taekwondo training, and then cycling in the dark at 7 p.m. back home. Now, I did this for 4 years. Now, trust me, at age 15, this is a massive ass burner, okay? But trust me, I was one of the fittest guys in that or martial arts gym, and when I was playing rugby, it really felt like I was cheating. I was ridiculously fit. I soon realized the back and forth cycling was part of the training, and the sooner I made peace with that from like a mental perspective, the sooner I could get on with the task. And that was to learn Taekwondo. And Taekwondo is actually a martial art, and at its core is discipline. Now, to sort of circle back to where we find ourselves today, it's been a hard 5 weeks for me. I run a firearms-based YouTube channel that generates almost no ad revenue from YouTube because advertisers are pretty anti-gun, okay? So I can't really do like a Xanax ad or whatever. So we rely on our channel partners and you guys. I also have multiple other businesses that we need to generate income from online shop to product development to doing content for other people, to provide for my family. So we're pretty freaking busy, and with one arm, my productivity is not exactly awesome at the moment. So on that note, if you've emailed us, submitted a forum, contact me on Instagram or message me in some way on WhatsApp and I haven't responded, I'm sorry about that. What feels like a million balls in the air most days, we miss things here and there, okay? I'm only human. My wife tries to help me as much as she can in the business, but we're absolutely far from perfect. With all the things we have going on, there sometimes just isn't enough time in the day to get to everything. So I apologize if I haven't responded to you. So as my hand is sort of getting better, we are returning to some form of normality, I guess. But really the turnaround came about between week 3 and week 4. And I made two, I can actually do that now. 2 big decisions during that time that really sped up the recovery process for me. So the first decision I made was to get back out there, to start moving. I'd spent enough time on my back being an unproductive member of society. My doc gave me the heads up to start walking for exercise, and he said that if I was pain-free, I could run. Now, pain-free for me is a pretty relative term because I've broken so many things in my life. So it was so good to just get out and not be a prisoner in my own home anymore. So in the last week, I ran more than 40 kilometers already. None of those were pleasant though. I'm going to be dead honest with you guys. And that sort of circles us back again to the discipline thing. Motivation can only get you so far, but when you're out there and it's sucking, which it did initially, it was super sore. The discipline is what keeps us going. Now, this morning in particular was a super stormy, wet day in Cape Town. In fact, you might hear some of the weather outside. I didn't feel like going for a run at all. And I knew I had to make this video. But I put my shoes on, I hit the road, the rain started hitting my face. And as I turned onto the trail, I freaking rolled my good ankle on a rock. And I was tired, I was wet, and now I had a sore ankle. Every fiber in my body was saying, just walk back to the house, call it a day, go make your video, da-da-da. I literally told myself, you did not get dressed to go for a walk in the rain. So what followed was an absolutely incredible run in what I now consider awesome conditions. And on top of all that, I did a personal best 5K time. So that's been really cool. Since I started moving, the pain also got better, okay? In week 4, I started with my rehab and I was really doing tiny movements at first. But when you haven't been moving your arm and you've been in so much pain, those tiny movements are everything. I've had significant improvements with the mobility over the last couple of weeks. My biggest challenge at the moment is not to overdo it. And that brings us back to that thing, okay? I also feel like the endorphin flush that I've been dealt after exercising has cleared my head from all the pain medication because that was really messing me up at first, okay? And on top of that, I also had multiple concussions within a week of each other leading up to my crash. So with my mind a little bit sharper, I'm now more driven than ever to excel in what we do, from shooting to being a better person, being a better husband and a better father, to growing this awesome movement that we've started with this channel. So on the 18th of March, I go for my next x-ray and hopefully the doc says everything is hunky-dory because at the moment it kind of is what it is. So we'll see. The second, difficult to do. I still don't have any rotation left. The second decision I made is that this step back has opened my eyes and it's really brought to light the opportunities God has gifted my family with, as well as my abilities that are, by the way, within us all. The ability to decide, to move, the ability to love each other. The fact that my accident could have been so much worse. Now, it's not all fun and games being in my position. I work harder than I ever have in my entire life. Every day I have to grind to make this dream a reality. You guys, however, see a very small glimpse of that. And usually it's the fun bits, it's the bits of us shooting at the range, or, it's the highlights. You see the highlights. It's like people's Facebook reels, I guess. I also suffer from something called imposter syndrome. That basically means that I always doubt my own ability and I never think I'm good enough. Okay, so when I read your comments, "Hey Pete, you're so awesome," I go like, am I? That's kind of what I suffer from. Now, couple that with my almost dysfunctional level of perfectionism, I have a really hard time relaxing and being content with where I am. Now, that can be a really good thing if you're a motivated person, but it's also a pretty unhealthy combo because you tend to be a freaking workaholic. Now, being in the public eye also has its challenges. It all can't be positive. I try my best, as I always say, to read your guys' comments. I read hundreds of comments on the videos, okay? And I'll read one negative one, and that freaking comment will stick with me like you cannot believe, okay? But again, this is where that sort of imposter syndrome, self-doubt creeps in. I kind of archive those negative comments on like a mental sticky note, if you will, in the back of my mind somewhere. So when, like this morning, I'm running and I'm uncomfortable, or I'm working on a big project and it's 2 a.m. in the morning and I feel like taking a breather, I go back and I have a look at those sticky notes. And it's like pouring fuel on the fire, and I keep working and I keep grinding, and that's basically one of the ways I keep pushing always. Now, I have failed in many points in my life, and failure is inevitable. My brother and I used to say when we raced motorbikes and mountain bikes, if you're not crashing, you're not trying hard enough. And I think that kind of comes from watching too much Travis Pastrana videos. You guys will know, when I started this sport, I finished dead last. And this sport's precision rifle. I finished dead last, stone dead last, by a mile in my first match, okay? But I didn't quit, I wasn't discouraged, I was motivated. I set goals, I planned strategically how I will reach them. I was disciplined and calculated in my approach, and I set myself milestones along the way. And that's really how you do anything in life, It's a skill to achieve a goal, and once you've sort of done that, and I feel like that's where that martial arts background also helped me a hell of a lot. Once you learn a skill of how to learn a skill, man, it's powerful. And on this note, guys, I've been trying really hard to grow a beard. I'm telling you now, if you can grow a beard, you can do a lot. Because this is rank difficult. Anyway, so that is one of the coolest things in life. We can really do anything that we put our minds to, But your feet have to hit the ground, like in my case with the running. I'm not gonna get fit if I don't run. Nothing is for nothing, and you gotta get your hands dirty. And it is truly almost like a game if you think about it, life. We learn new skills along the way, we upgrade our character, okay? We accumulate resources, and in my case, I guess my life is like a first-person shooter for the most part. Except there's many other boring things that they don't make you do in first-person shooter games. Like editing this video, which is not exciting, it's hard work. Anyway, so my 2020 goals might have been pushed back a little bit with this setback, but I have no doubt in my mind that we will do everything, and I will do everything in my power to hit those targets. We've been blessed with an incredible audience in you guys that support this channel. We've got incredible channel partners that help us so much. So I please ask that you guys consider working with our channel partners and supporting them when you're looking for your next components. We've built a wonderful group of people that watch this channel. We've also built the People of Impact, the POI, from all over the world. That's become this sort of cool, unique little community thing we've got going, and it's really special. So I really wanted to make this video to share with you guys today that there's absolutely nothing special about me. Yeah, I shoot a gun, alright, but I'm no different than you. I'm just like you. I'm a normal person. I have the same fears, the same doubts, the same insecurities, the same anxieties. I face the same challenges that you do, although in a different business model, I guess. But we're all the same. Now, looking back, after a few years with the benefit of hindsight, it's been a good decision. I'm incredibly grateful, and I'm humbled that we've been able to make it work thus far. Now, if you're a regular viewer, you know that I'm a Christian, I'm a believer, and I didn't do any of this by myself. I worked my butt off, but I didn't work alone. Okay, so none of this would have been possible without the grace of God blessing my family with this incredible opportunity, and I'm thankful for that every single day. Now, if you're currently in a dark place, I urge you to reach out to somebody. Depression and mental health is a real thing. I've been there. Don't take it lightly. We often see a shell of people that they put on as a show, and I was guilty of that myself. But the reality is we don't know what people are dealing with. So if you've got a buddy that you haven't spoken to in a while, you may be worried about him, just take a second. Reach out to them, see what's up. Go for a beer or a coffee, whatever. Guys, I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for all your support, for all you guys watching. We will be back to our sort of precision rifle content shortly. In fact, the next video will be back there. I have a few really cool things to show you off soon. If you're new here, this is not the normal type of video we do, but I really wanted to sort of share with you guys where I've come from, and I think I know pretty well where we're gonna go, and I hope you're there for the journey. I thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. And remember, be kind to one another.